Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Madroit podcast. I, of course, Jordan Haynes here, alongside Winston Hofer, founder, CEO of Madroit. Winston, how are you doing today, man?
Doing great, Jordan. Thanks.
Fantastic. Love to hear it. So, today, another fun topic. One of the big conversations that I think we all experience in business or even just as consumers, right, is that the cost of things based on what we're expecting as a result of buying those things is something that a lot of people have different opinions on and different perceptions on. And I think it's a unique discussion in our world, especially when you have a client that they have lofty goals, or maybe they're jumping into a new space in marketing and they have great ambitions. However, maybe their marketing budget or plan isn't completely thought out or really thought all the way through, even. So, for example, you may want to have the absolute greatest website ever. You want, all of the things, achieving great things from your marketing and then resulting in great sales. But you may have something budget wise that speaks to maybe a single landing page or maybe just one advertising avenue, right? Which kind of takes us to our topic today, and what we're hoping to get to is that, does your marketing have champagne taste on a beer budget? So, so to clarify that a little bit, do you want all of like the finer, nicer, amazing things, but don't necessarily have the means or should be venturing into taking on the means to achieve those amazing things? So I think that kind of takes us into some of the pain points that we'd go through with that win. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, right? Like a lot of companies, they may have a budget that's arbitrarily set because they feel like this is what it should cost and they want to get XYZ out of it or the whole lot, right? Um, so it's not really based on anything concrete. And a lot of people, and I get it, I'm there with them, right? You want the world, but don't want to pay for it. Like we have everything we wanted be nice to have, great to have, right? But we're not necessarily there yet. They want the best website or these creative ads or videos, the best content produced out there, the best branding out there. And it's tough for companies to see that. And I get it. It's challenging.
Same. And I think for me too, like, it can lead to some frustration when you have some of these discussions about all the things that you want to do, or you see like there's a competitor out there or someone that you know that has this amazing website, or at least you perceive it to be an amazing website. So you want that, right? Like, we need to have that. It's so great. Let's have that. Well, when you find out the cost, you're like, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean it costs that much? Like, they don't have that. But there's so many other factors that go into the website that you need or the advertising that you take on. And I think my advice to people in that space would be, don't overextend yourself. Like, have a good understanding of what it is that you need, and then kind of talk through that a little bit to ultimately get to where you want to go. I think another piece of that is like, to your point, I love that. Like, we want the world, but we don't always necessarily want to pay for everything that comes with all of that, right? I think pairing with that, marketing is not an exact science, right? I mean, that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, it's not. And I think people outside of it, right? Like company owners, high leadership at companies, they don't always get what goes into it, rightfully so. But asking someone you trust, right, to explain what's possible here, starting with those lofty goals and intentions is awesome, right? But talking with someone to understand like what's doable with the budget we have, talking with someone who understands what goes into it and seeing what can we afford to do, right? And how do we level up strategically to end up at that point? But what can we start with to get us going towards that direction and that goal?
Yeah, and that's, I think for me too, like, I've worked in companies and worked with clients who have really, thought out budgets and really well established budgets, and some that don't. But the common thread is like, it has to start with the goals, the planning, and if there's something that happens along the way, working with somebody where like, I can ask a question to you and you're going to give me sound, honest advice. It's not about, a money grab or about like steering a narrative or something like that. It's about working with somebody who's going to act in your best interest. And I think that's where, for me, in the past, when I've been talking with somebody at an agency or something like that, and I know that there's trust on the other side of that table, that they're going to act in my best interest. And it's the same thing that we would do with our clients, right? Is like we want to show like, yeah, if we're telling you and giving you advice to make these recommended changes on your website or to take on this type of advertising, it's just to try to grow your company. Like, I think
So,
that's a huge piece.
so true. And, working with our clients and hearing about some of the stories that they've shared about working with other agencies, right? It's like their toolbox is limited. So if all they have is a hammer, every problem is a nail. And you see that a lot with different agencies. And being able to, even if we don't have the tool, right, but still be able to say like, this is the tool you need because it's the right play for you and your company. Like having that best interest in mind is so critical. And of course, we do a lot and have so many tools, but just having that best interest in mind is huge. And if you don't have that with your agency or your team, like it's really hard to trust what they're saying and move forward and see success from it.
Big time. And I think that that's the phrase that comes to mind is trust the process, right? I think it was like one of the 76ers, I think Joel Embiid was like coined for saying it in the NBA playoffs one year. But it rings true in marketing too, where, when you invest in your marketing and it can be like you're excited about it, but then there's so many aspects of it that can be like, oh man, I really, really hope this works. Needs to work out because I need to show success to our CEO or our board of directors, or, even if it's your boss or whomever, or if you're the owner, right? Gosh, this needs to work for our business. So you have to trust that the things that the people that you're working with and the tactics that you're taking on, you're investing in those for the long term. Like immediate results, yes, those can certainly be achieved, but also you want long-term sustainable growth. So I think for me, it's trusting the process. Patience will pay off, patience and sometimes perseverance, but then also having the agility to make moves, which is why, I love what we do in our kind of process that we go through where we continuously work with our clients. But yeah, I think the patience piece is vital because you don't want to get into a situation where you're making knee jerk reaction after knee jerk reaction and actually giving your advertising a chance to learn its audience, grow, and then ultimately deliver for you.
So true. And I think having great KPI, like KPI set up for that is so critical, right? Because blind trust can get you into a world of hurt where you just blindly trust a marketing person, salesperson, team member to do what they say they're going to do. But without some checks and balances, like how do you know they're improving, right? How do you know what they're doing and they're actually working towards that? So having those KPIs to set expectations and be able to measure and pivot or make improvements to campaigns and marketing strategies is huge for that. And then trusting the process because it does take time. But if you keep those things in mind, right, as you know, like the results are pretty amazing. So
Yeah. It reminds me of a story. I mean, some years ago when I was working and reporting to a board of directors, and we had made a substantial change in our advertising into, Google Ads, and it was new for them. And it got to a point where it was like, oh my gosh, we're spending how much money on Google Ads? Like, how do you know that's actually working? And they had never looked into what our KPIs were. So I was able to thank God because otherwise I probably would have been packing up my stuff and out of there. But I went to our KPIs and I said, this is what we did last year. This is what we're doing now as a result of investing more into this area. So then they were able to see some pretty undeniable evidence that, thank God I had it again, because if it was just me going off my word, wouldn't have worked, and we would have probably changed tactics to something else. But because we had those in place, it was working. They could see the work, they could see the growth in the company. So we were able to move forward. But that's why it's essential, right? So with that, again, if you have your champagne taste, if you like your champagne, please feel free to drink it accordingly and enjoy it. But if you can't and you're on more of a beer budget, drink it just the same. Enjoy it just the same. The goal is that you're going to be working with somebody who you know you can trust and who you know is going to be there to kind of level up with you based on what you have going on, what your goals and objectives are, but then also be there to set those goals and objectives for you. So that, friends, in our eyes, is how good partnership works. That's all we got for today. If you have any questions after you listen to this podcast, please feel free to let us know at madroitmarketing.com/podcast. And please rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks, guys.